Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
So, with that being said, let me tell you a little bit about our guest. I'm going to try to get her on the phone in just a few moments. But for those of you that may not know, Aingeal Rose is an author. She is a teacher. She is in touch with the Akashic records. She has several books on it. And right now she's doing this wonderful project where she's going around the world and collecting water from sacred sites. And if any of you know the work of Emoto or understand the idea of how water holds memory, this is a very special project that she's doing. So without further ado, let me try to get her on the line. Let's see if she's all updated, and hopefully she'll be joining us in just a moment. Let's try to give her a call. Okay.
Hello.
Oh, wonderful. It's so great to hear your voice, Aingeal.
Good to hear yours too. How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah.
I went ahead and I already introduced you.
Oh, good. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. It's funny when I was getting the show ready, it was telling me that somebody needed to update your Skype. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it could be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and even when you did call my cell phone, and I kept trying to answer it and wouldn't answer.
Gosh.
Okay.
Well, there must be something you're going to be telling everyone that the world doesn't want us to hear. I don't know. Anyway, again, I just want to welcome you to the show, and I'm so grateful you were able to join us today. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Welcome. I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you. So with that being said, Aingeal, let's catch up. Let's start up. We haven't had you on the show in probably over a year.
Right.
And last time you came on, of course, we were speaking about the Akashic records, and I think you had started talking a bit about the work you were doing with the water. I don't know if that's where you want to start, but fill us in. What have you been up to for the past year?
All right. Well, we do try to take our yearly trip over to Europe, to Ireland, since Hanu is Irish. And last year, actually 2 years ago, let me go 2 years ago, Bernard, because I think it's been a couple years.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, it was one of those times when you got on the airplane and all of a sudden this energy came over me, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to be an important trip without really knowing why. So we get there, we get into our little cottage, and it turns out we rented a cottage on a property that had a 5,000-year-old standing stone on it. And both of us were woken up at 6 a.m, and we were asked by the stone, believe it or not, please come out here and see me, okay? So we go to see the stone, and very definitely it's a female energy, and it tells us to pay attention to the aquifers beneath it. Okay, now, I didn't really know what that meant, but make a long story short, it turns out that particular summertime, we were led to numerous places around Ireland and were asked to make mother tincture waters of the various places. And we were guided on how to do it and how to invoke the spirit of the place into the water. As it turned out, we were led to specific holy wells. We were led to sacred sites around Ireland. We were taken on wild goose chases to find underground caverns that had mythical stories connected to them that were entrances to the other world, to where the Shi come through, which are the fairies. We climbed sacred mountains. We went to places where ETs visited, and all of it was guided very specifically. I mean, we just had a map, and basically, well, we want you to go here, we want you to go there. Even we were led to make a mother tincture out of high brazel. Now, have you ever heard of high brazel?
No, I have not. What is that?
High Brazel is a mythical island off the west coast of Ireland that is, if you look on ancient maps, you'll see the island drawn. But what the myth was that it would only appear every 7 years. And there wasn't a lot known about it, just that the people of old used to know about it. And it was one of those things where ships would come near it and then it would disappear. Had this legend, right? So, of course, because it's not appearing now, Ahanu and I had to just intuitively let ourselves be guided to where we could put our jar of water down and invoke the energy of this place. Turned out that it was off the wild Atlantic way, off the coast of Ireland, when Ahanu just all of a sudden takes this detour down this road, and we found this little remote beach off the ocean. And if you looked out, you'd see these two black, kind of like islands in the distance with a pathway through the center. So we just put our jar down on the beach and invited the spirit of High Brazel in, and it was immediate. It was obviously a piece of Atlantis. Ahanu had just went into this space, and this is unusual for him, where he remembered flying, he remembered breathing underwater, and I was just seeing this incredibly wealthy place, full of power, and obviously very advanced consciousness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, the whole, and not only that, we were given permission to go into places where nobody knew why we were even there. We never told anyone. One of the places was a cave on the Burren in Ireland. It's called Alwee Cave. And Alwee Cave has like millions and millions of years old waterfall in the cavern. And of course, you can't really have access to it. You can only go on the tour and see the waterfall. But the guide, we asked the guide, would he get us some water from the waterfall? And after the tour was over, he did. He climbed down to the base of this waterfall and got us a jar of that water. And but people were letting us into sacred sites that were closed. I mean, crazy things like we'd be walking up. One of the places was in let's see, I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry. It's called the Hill of the Witches in English.
Oh,
but
I like that.
Yeah, it's a place in Ireland. But anyway, it's got all these cairns, burial cairns on top, and we were asked to make a water tincture from this particular one, not knowing it was a solstice holiday, and we didn't know that they closed the entrance to these sites on holidays because they don't want so many people walking all over them and in them. But anyway, we were walking up the mound to this, and this guy was coming down, and he turns out he was a worker, and he just stopped us. And he goes, you need to get in there. Do you want me to let you in?
Wonderful.
So the whole summer was that way. And anyway, the following summer we went back because they had asked us to get, we were asked to go to Stonehenge. We were asked to go to Glastonbury tour, Chalice Well, even King Arthur's Camelot in England, which is a huge ring fort. It's just amazing. So we darted around there. We went to Scotland. They wanted us to make a tincture out of the Stone of Destiny, which also has a history. So any of these things I'm mentioning, if you want a little bit of background, let me know. But the Stone of Destiny now sits under glass in Edinburgh Castle. And so I had to kind of sneak because it's heavily guarded,
Right.
And put this little tiny bottle near the glass and quickly call in the spirit of the Stone of Destiny. So we've collected about 85, I'd say. so far. And then we would take them back. And the first thing they asked us to do, now I just want you to imagine all these little jam jars, Bernard, full of these waters. And we put them all on a table together. And we sat back and they all just started communicating with each other. And part of the reason for collecting them, one of the reasons was that the ley lines between these places some of them had been broken. And some of these places hadn't been able to communicate energetically properly in hundreds of thousands of years. So by bringing them all together, they all started communicating. And then we started to ingest them, of course. And we found that they are, well, let's just say they're so highly transformative. You go into an altered state within 30 seconds of ingesting one. We were totally surprised. And it's all earth energy. So not only did we experience the spirit of the place, but the energetics of the earth. But sometimes we had powerful healings as a result. And I think what I want to stress is these are very tangible. In other words, it's not just like a nice vision. When I say you've had a healing from it, your whole body feels it. You know where it's going, which part of the body it's going to. And one of the most powerful ones was we were asked to make a mother tincture from St. Bridget's grave, her site. And that was, yeah, I know. And I'm not a saint person, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So when they asked us, they wanted St. Patrick and St. Bridget. And we're like, oh, do we have to, So we traveled to this mound where they're both buried called Downpatrick in Ireland. And they built this huge cathedral on top of the mound, of course. So we walked in and just found the energetic spot where Bridget was. I had a vision of her right away. And on the way back, 10 minutes after we left there, without ever tasting it, she came and she said, you could never be condemned. And I thought, the image was that was true of everybody. And she wanted to get the point across about the innocence of everybody. And this ball of light went down into my navel chakra. And she put innocence in there. It's so hard to explain, but I have had like 2 or 3 surgeries in that area.
Oh.
And that week I was purging physically like you wouldn't believe, So, I mean, that's just one little story. We have tons of stories. So now, Bernard, I've collected all these waters. I've made essences out of them. They're highly experiential for anybody who wants to dabble in them, okay? But they changed me in a way. In fact, all of us who were testing these waters were highly transformed, okay? And let me just give you a comparison, if I could.
Yes, please.
Okay. A few years back, my publisher has a healing center, and he showed us. He took us into this healing center some years back, probably 3 or 4 years now, and he had refrigerators full of jars of mother tinctures from crop circles. Okay.
Very cool.
And we're kind of looking at them like. He didn't know what to do with them. He is a friend of Barbara Lamb's, who is somebody who's written many books on ETs and crop circles. And she's the one who would go into the center of the circle when it was first laid down with a big jar of water and let it be infused with the energy of the crop circle. And so he asked me would I go into the Akashic records and tap into a few of them and see what I got. Well, make a long story short, it turned out that I ended up reading over 120 crop circles, okay? And
oh my goodness.
And he's made essences out of them, and he goes to conferences and he sells them to people. And, they also have, they have their own experiences of the energy of those circles. Now, what's interesting is I've never really ingested those crop circle essences. I mean, I read them, I hold them, I know what they're doing, but for some reason I've never wanted to take them physically. But that's why when we were asked to do these for the earth places, I found it interesting that that's what I wanted to do, was ingest them.
Hmm.
And a lot of the reason is that these energies, water holds a memory, as we all may know by now. And it was trying to tell us that the earth herself as a body does not heal from things in history as quickly as, let's say, a human body could, because the imprints are in there and people keep recharging them by going over the memories of the places. Okay?
Yeah.
So they don't heal. It doesn't release a lot of places. Like, we were at some places that had battles and it's known in Europe, especially, where people can have go to a sacred spot and actually see at right times, when the energies are just right. They can actually see a whole entire scene of an event from the past playing itself out.
Yeah.
So, but the earth was trying to say, look, I need help healing, and the human body has the ability to transform a lot of these imprints much faster because, we hold water as well, and we have a consciousness that if we're aware of what we're doing, we can process it through. Okay? And incredibly, too, there's been land healings with this. People who've had fallen warriors fall on their property. We made a tincture from the area. And when we adjusted it, not only did the whole scene of the warriors falling, but their feelings, what they wanted, what they needed. And it just brought a whole dimension of awareness to me as a spiritual person, not connecting with the earth on those levels before, that it really is communion with the earth. And I can't express it enough. You kind of have to take them in order to get what I'm talking about.
Right. But you're doing a good job of it, so thank you.
Okay, well, but that was totally spirit-led. It wasn't anything that I ever thought I would ever be doing. And as a result of that, we ended up, thankfully, having a benefactor who was helping us financially, and thank God for him, because we wouldn't have been able to travel to the places that we did or go where we needed to go for that to happen. So that's been one of the latest projects that we've done. We're also in Redmond, Oregon now. Came here from San Diego basically because my daughter brought my grandchild here, so I followed. So I'm only starting to, there's definitely places in the U.S. that they want us to go, which we haven't been to yet. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's on the books. But Oregon itself has many, many vortex places, places where the magnetics are funky and strange,
Yeah.
So that's consumed a lot of our time, as well as, we still do our group Akashic record sessions. We still do private readings and things like that,
Well, you sound like you've been very busy, Aingeal. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And then what is the has spirit guided you as to what the outcome goal of collecting all these waters is for? Is it to energetically record what's been happening or to transform it? Oh, our commercial came up a little early. We'll be
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
And welcome back to the justBernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We are speaking with Aingeal Rose about her work with waters from sacred sites around the world. And before the break, I had just asked Aingeal, and if you remember, Aingeal, what spirit has motivated you as to what is the outcome of this? Are we saving history? Are we saving energy? Are we healing the earth? What do you feel the outcome of all of this work is going to be?
Okay, well, I think there's a few things. One, I do think we are healing the past that the earth has held. Okay, and also, we are in a time of transformation where we're literally making a new earth.
Yes.
And so in order to do that, though, we do have to transform the energies of the old earth. Okay. And my feeling is that, you know, one of the things we're doing is we are repairing the ley lines the way that they should be into a Christ pattern, where they've been broken by, you know, history of battles and wars and rituals and all sorts of things like that. So by ingesting them, you do transform the earth in that way. I also think they're for the human. I think they're made into essences so that people themselves can heal, and heal their past as well. Because even if you think generationally, how the past in our families and in our cultures and our religions, that gets, you know, transferred down through the generations, and it repeats itself. So the way that releases and changes is slow in comparison to what you can do when you're conscious of what's happening. Okay, so the experience of these waters puts you at a whole deeper level of knowledge. You have a communication on a level with nature that I've never experienced before, because we're into the subtle energies. We're into the what's going on beneath the surface of places and things like that. And,
Yeah.
and the other thing that happens with these is that nature's, once you're aware of what's happening at those levels, nature starts to do things for you. I mean, I couldn't believe it until I saw it myself. And I mean, you know, clouds opening up when there's huge storms all around us, and the rain is continuing with all these dark clouds all around us, but the path we're traveling is lit up with sunlight. Okay.
Wonderful.
You know, things like that. And that's just a small example, but it supports you in a way where it does miracles for you. And I think if you said to anybody, you know, were they even aware that you could work with nature in that way, where once it knows you're aware of it at that level, there's a unity that happens that we're not experiencing right now. Okay, so to me, it's multifaceted. But the earth herself wants help releasing the past out of her body, because all this light that's coming in, she wants to be able to absorb it. Okay, and it's the same with us. If we can have all the light come into us, but if we're still full of the past and past things that are not healed, we're not going to be able to absorb that light in the way that maybe we could if we were clear. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I think they're for. And I think that's what the outcome. And the truth is, Bernard, is that anybody can make these. I mean, I'm not the only person who can do this. You know, it's just a matter of wanting to and being able to go out there and call in a particular energy. And the thing is you feel it come into that jar, like almost immediately. I mean, it's like I say, it's very tangible.
That's fascinating, Angel. And I do feel that water is probably one of the most important elements that we need to work with to not only help our healing, but to heal the planet, as well as heal the waters itself. I mean, we have between the pollution and, like you said, the memories that are imprinted. Speaking of that, I thought it was very fascinating because last week or the week before, we had the Crystal Crone, Beverly Johnson. And one of the times that she was on the show, she had mentioned the very same thing about the crystals below the surface and how they get imprinted with the memories. And she was talking about, I believe it was South Carolina's underneath the surface there is I forgot what type of crystal it is. And she was talking about the Civil War and all the ugliness and how it's held onto that, and that is why we see so much, hatred and bigotry still there, and how that needs to be healed.
Right.
And I wonder, I'm just curious, and I'm just thinking out of left field here. I wonder what would happen if you were to use those waters in with the crystals, or put the crystals in the waters, and
Well, all you'd really have to do is go to those crystals with a jar of pure water and invite the purest historical information available to come into the water. Okay, and I think that's an important thing to say, because we're not inviting the most recent trauma. We're inviting the original spiritual essence of the place, as it was in its purest form, to come in. Okay, now in the process of that happening, you put the lid on when you feel it's in, and then when you take it home, all you need is to put 2 or 3 drops of the mother tincture in some water and drink it. But if there's trauma there, you're going to have a whole re-experience of the thing, and it will get processed through, because what happens is there's a degree of love that you experience with all of these memories. You really get it, that everything that has ever happened wants acceptance. And as soon as you accept it, whether it's dark or whether it's light, and you integrate it without any judgment, all of a sudden it's healed. Okay, so one of the tiny stories, I'll try to make it quick, was the property we were on. We had certain ley lines on that property that we made our water from, and when we drank it, it turns out that there was a huge gaping energetic black hole on this property, and it turns out that there was a warrior who had died there from one of the battles during Celtic times, and he was still there, and what he wanted was to be, he said, the first thing that a warrior thinks of when he's dying is his mother. And I thought, how interesting, and then he thinks he's failed because he didn't get home. So, but that's the place he fell, you see, and because that was the last place he was, it's almost like it needed to be integrated. It needed to be accepted that this was an important place for that being. And so you could transfer that to say any battlefield is probably the same thing as true. Why are these spirits still restless or unhealed? Is because there hasn't been a full acknowledgement of them as a person who, in its last moments, it's almost like part of their energy claims part of that land because that's where they are. So once we became conscious of this warrior and loved it and accepted it as part of the family that now lives there, that whole gaping hole in the earth just disappears, and we wove it back together. Okay, but this is the kind of thing I'm trying to get across, is that that's a level of awareness that you would never know about. You never know that how warriors feel, or people who die on land, the place they fell, their energetics are still there. I think we don't have that level of awareness normally. So when you talk about the crystals in the earth and the imprints that are in them, it does make a difference in terms of the quality of all of our lives on the earth, what these imprints are. Okay, and if they're not transformed, and we're trying to bring in this new earth that is devoid of war and hatred and those sorts of things, but yet the imprints are still in the earth, and they get passed, the stories get passed on generationally, and Ireland's a great one for that, because there's so many stories and myths, but the truth about those people is they put curses and spells on each other, every day.
Oh yeah.
They
was
weren't
back
nice,
before we knew better.
they weren't nice ones either, but there's places where, but my point is people in Ireland, for example, they, these gods, these old giants, these old Celts they're almost worshipped in a way,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And yet they weren't nice people a lot of the time. So
yes, there's something to be said for social evolution. Yeah.
okay. So, but there's one spot in Ireland called Knocknaray, and it's a burial cairn, and it's up at the top of a mountain, and it holds the remains of Queen Maeve, who was one of those old ancient Celtic goddesses, queens. And we've been there a few times, but the last time I was there, I said to Hannah, well, where'd she go? Her energy was gone. And when I looked into it, I saw that what's happening with the earth in this cycle is that, it's like gears in the universe, wheels within wheels, and as we turn and things change, certain energies or beings that have been allowed to be here for so long, I mean, their time is up, so they have to leave,
Yeah.
And hers was one of them. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting?
Very interesting. Wow.
So anyhow, lot going on here.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear of this work that you're doing because I do feel it's important. And like I said, water is a very strong element that does need to be healed, and will probably help in the like you said, altering the old vibration and helping to bring in the new vibration. With that being said, I can't believe we're almost running out of time. Of course, I want to ask you the big question because I know that you are in contact with the Akashic records, and you do. What do you do? Weekly sessions for people?
Well, I do private readings, but
Oh, okay.
the group ones we used to do them every Sunday. We don't anymore, only because Ahano can't keep up with the producing by himself.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I know
So
how it is to do everything by yourself, so I know you mean.
yeah, so we do one a month is what
Oh,
we
there
do.
you go.
Yeah.
And I do have, I think I have a couple of your books already, and I know we might have touched on it, but like you said, we are going through a period of great transition, and I'd like to call it the Great Awakening of the modern world. We talk about the awakening, we talk about creating the new paradigm, and as the Akashic records being, the past, the present, and the future, what has the Akashic records demonstrated or offered to us as far as giving us hints on what's happening with this global awakening? Is this all in our minds, or is it a part of the universal Akashic records?
No, it's not all in our minds, but okay, well, I can tell you what I've gotten from Source in the
Okay.
records. Okay, that Source's intention is that all planets be paradise planets. Okay, and I'm using paradise not to think of Adam and Eve, or just as a planet where it's harmonious, it's creative, it's life affirming. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we are definitely have been for some years now being given doses of light to facilitate that awakening. Okay. And that awakening, as you know, is coming into people in terms of their own DNA being activated, and that takes the form of becoming more psychic or remembering a lifetime, for example, or what that's like when you start to turn on those higher gifts. Obviously, the new children are already incorporating those gifts when they come in. Okay. All right. So, but the most important thing that we need to understand now is that the light is moving so quickly that we really do have to be realizing that we are creating the new world. We are. And we have to really watch what we're thinking about. Okay. Because that is going to determine where we go or in what way we progress. Okay, so what does that mean? What that means is, we just spent a lot of time talking about the past and its imprints. We all have to be changing our beliefs into a whole new paradigm. Okay, and the potential is there. I mean, if you can imagine that we're just loaded with creative energy right now,
Yeah.
and that energy is going to say yes to whatever we're thinking about and do it very quickly. But we're also in a purification. And I know some people have a reaction to that word, but it is the word, because the purification isn't a punishment, it's not a judgment, but it is a cleansing of who we are and who we have been and our opinions of ourselves and what we think is possible in this world. Okay? So we're kind of in a, when we're looking at the earth changes, we're looking at storms, whether they're man-made or they're natural or a combination of both. The point is, it's a huge, throw your hands up in the air and see where we're going to land,
Mhm.
because this is going to continue for a while, and it will continue until we as a consciousness stabilize our intention. And I think as you look, Bernard, at all the stuff that's going on in the outer world, and what you have seen, at least what I've seen, is a combination of people who were either becoming more loving and forgiving, or we're letting all our prejudices come out. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think the decision has to be made, and this is what Source keeps telling us, that we just don't get it how powerful creators we are. Okay, so yes, we're in an actual cosmic cycle, but that cycle doesn't determine the whole outcome. It provides particular energies and it does its own cleansing. But our minds now are what is going to determine what all this looks like as it continues to unfold. Okay, so you do have wonderful things. I mean, look at all the inventions that have come down the pike to clean water, to clean air, to electric cars, hovercrafts, the whole thing, right? So as well as we've got these problems, we do have inventors, from young to old, that are providing solutions to these problems and providing solutions that can fix the stuff fairly rapidly. Okay, so all of that's positive. But then on the other side, you've still got that old paradigm that still wants us, kept in the shadows and kept undercover and controlled. So, but I've always felt that control system is not going to succeed. But because we're moving through our own paradigms and belief systems now, we're going to have to decide, are we going to, we're going to sling more mud and hatred over in this corner, or are we going to do the love forgiveness thing? Okay, so, a lot of it is up to us, and it's bringing up all our own dirt, if you will,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think Source's intention is always that this be positive, and certainly we're being provided with all of the things we need to make that be. But our own responsibility is to watch our thoughts, watch what we're doing, pay attention to the fact that you're creating the future, and anything that doesn't fit into this picture of harmony and cooperation has to go. So we're making headway. We have more and more people standing up for that, but I don't think the balance is there yet, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I love what you said about stabilizing intention. That's a term that's going to stick with me, because that seems to be where I'm at right now. Many of us are seeing the new paradigm. Many of us are understanding what this new earth is and what it is that we're trying to create here. At the same time, we still have one foot in the old paradigm and the problems, the distractions, the divisiveness that are associated with that. So I love that idea of stabilizing the intention. Could you maybe expand on what you meant by that a little bit?
Yeah, because the thing is, our desires have to be consistent. Okay, in the sense that we have to, number one, really get it that we're the creators. Okay, we are the ones that are doing this. And when I say stabilizing, it means you have to have a consistent desired intention and know every day consciously what you're choosing. And if you're choosing, the paradise earth, which by the way is already in existence, it's just us being able to match the frequency to it. Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, because I actually seen some of these rock stars where they've gone is they're up there playing music in this new earth, So, okay, so but anyway, it's a thing about being mindful, on a daily basis, especially because I don't know about you, Bernard, but anybody who's out there, there's times, can't you feel the sorrow? Can't you feel the chaos sometimes? You wake up in the morning and you've been sprayed with chemtrails all night, and you wake up and you're feeling sick, and you look out and sure enough, the night before you went to bed, the skies are full of them. The morning when you wake up, they're still flying. We could get on a whole other topic about that, what it's causing. Okay, but anyway, so sometimes it seems like it's a huge effort to put your mind back over into, oh yeah, that's right. I'm a creator, and I can choose right now that I'm focusing on the new earth. That's what I'm creating with my conscious thoughts. You know what? And to me, sometimes I have difficulty not being angry.
Of course.
At some of the stuff that's going on, but But that's an example of what I mean. I have to watch that and say, all right, I'm acknowledging that right now I'm really pissed, but what's the alternative? And then I have to remember, oh yeah, that's right, I'm an I am presence, which means, I'm a God self within my own physical body. I got Kundalini, which is the nature of God inside me, actually physically. I'm responsible for the quality of that. So I re-choose. And so you do get to the point where you're able to consistently be in that frame of mind. Like when I get like that, sometimes it's like, well, go give a blessing to somebody. You got a healing list. I have a healing tree. Go to that and call in the higher thing and send these people love and blessings, And that puts me in that other place. And that's what I have to remember, that I can do that. Okay. And, and I think that's what I mean about being consistent with the intention, because it's like, well, you're creating that reality. So you have to watch all the stuff that tempts you to not be that. Okay. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I can relate. Well, I can relate to everything you're saying. And it's so interesting. And not only do we get bombarded. Oh, wow. I guess we ran out of time. My goodness.
Oh, dear.
Well, we're ending on a good note. So thank you for all of that, Aingeal. And I really appreciate you taking your